Hello and welcome to the 4Corners podcast. I'm Brad, joined by Matt and Shad. Gentlemen, how are you doing this evening?
Hanging in there.
Brad.
So, we have a show for you tonight. So, we're kind of doing the rest of that NWA Grand Slam 1993 show that we did the Sabu and Sean Waltman match from last week. And then we have John Cena versus Sabu and was it an Extreme Lumberjack match?
Yep.
From
2006 Vengeance, I think.
Yeah. So, I guess we can just start with the Vengeance match since that's the odd man out. So this, I don't remember the feud around this time because my fandom was kind of like waning a bit. So they did like a long ass recap, which now the one thing I didn't like about the presentation of this is, it took forever to get to the actual match.
That's true. It was a really long video package, and they gave the Lumberjacks, the two teams of Lumberjacks, individual entrances for the teams, not for the individuals. Yeah. And then a lot of space around those two, and it's just kind of like the way the match went, that actually annoyed me more because it's like, oh, here's Team ECW, and they played the old "This Is Extreme" music for them to walk out to.
And then, like, basic intro.
Well, yeah. Well, and so they come out there and they do that, and the way the match goes is, I mean, it's John Cena versus Sabu. It's not a surprise who's winning, but it was basically a way of Vince shitting on ECW yet again. So,
well, this was right after that One Night Stand pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Where RVD won the title off Cena, which I remember. I didn't buy the pay-per-view, but I think I saw it because that was when I think they had like the WWE 24/7 or something. I watched it not long after, and I remember being like excited, even though in your sense I do not. I will fully say it. I don't like ECW. At the time, I was like into it, but I do not feel it is held up well at all.
There was a time when WWE ECW was actually pretty entertaining to watch, and it was around the time they had paired Mark Henry up with Tony Atlas, and he was the world's strongest champion, and he was feuding with Matt Hardy. And that's kind of where that's where Evan Bourne started out, and they kind of had an interesting show because all these kind of mid-carders were getting this time to figure their character out. It's kind of where Zack Ryder first started getting over.
Yeah,
because he was getting time.
Yeah, I don't really consider that real ECW.
No,
but,
it's not.
No, it's not.
Yeah, but this time frame, you have to remember, you have to go back. People who watched it, at this point, there's so many fans who they started watching since after this.
Way after this.
Long time. Yeah, perhaps way after this. This 2006.
There's a lot of fans
almost 20 years ago.
There's a lot of fans talking on Squared Circle that weren't even alive when this happened.
Maybe.
It's
but
true.
It actually now that I think about it, it's eyebrow raising to me because this was 19 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
That's a little something. But to talk about it, ECW ended. I mean, it limped towards the finish, but by early 2001 or the very January 2001, it was pretty much done.
It was. I mean, it was. I think the writing was on the wall around summer of 2000.
Yeah, they had. I think they had a pay-per-view or in late 2000, maybe December 2000.
I think they had one in 2001.
They could have, but that. And
I think they made it into
died around the same time.
I think they made it to January of 2001.
They could have, but yeah, that WCW lasted until March 2001. They both basically died at the same time.
And ECW had been propped up by Vince for a while at that too.
Yeah, but essentially we were roughly 5 years after the end of ECW. So this was nostalgia, but it wasn't like, it wasn't, I guess, annoying nostalgia. It wasn't like when they did let's do ECW night, like, you know, in the last like couple years they did it, and it's like, guys, we're like 20 plus years past the death of ECW.
Yeah.
Like we can stop.
I think
Like,
this
even the guys.
I think it's around the time you're getting those first couple of like Hammerstein ballroom like reunion shows that weren't WWE affiliated. I feel like that's kind of when these started popping up, because you kind of had the Pretender ECWs that lasted for a while. Like you had XPW, which I think limped on for a few more years. MLW kind of filled that slot for a while, and then you had like 3PW that was like doing its thing. So,
Which was the one that Meanie did? Because Meanie did one.
3PW.
Like, okay.
Because remember on TSM there was like a guy that went to all the shows, and I guess like it kind of blew up because Meanie was involved with like Jasmine St. Clair, and I guess she like was a total like monster to deal with on those shows for like fans and workers alike.
I have like stacks of wrestling DVDs that I had burned from back in the day, and sometimes I'll like occasionally watch them. And one was like a 3PW show. I forget the promotion's name, but I knew it was like Meaning because I looked it up. Because it was like the card was basically it was early 2000s, but it was like this could have been an ECW card from like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I looked it up, and it's like it was run by Meanie. It's like, oh, this makes sense. It makes sense why you're running like RVD and Sabu versus like, I don't know, like Al Snow and, you know, some other guy. But I didn't think it was that good. But again, that I am watching it also. I was watching it years later after like I do not like ECW. Thought it was fine at the time, but my taste has really expanded way beyond ECW. So watching it years later, I'm like, oh, this is just like an ECW card, not like nice, not like with an open mind. I'm like,
yeah.
You know what my problem?
But I'm
with
sure,
those
like
shows...
at the time, I'm sure people were like, yeah, it's what we want.
You know what
but it didn't last. I don't feel like that lasted.
It lasted
long.
like 3 years maybe. And I think Wrestling Society X was around this time too. I think the problem with the ECW imitators is, like, I'm not a huge ECW fan, but like there is a certain charm that ECW has. Like it has a certain charm to it and MLW, by the way, did like that weird, like, you know, the channel changey thing that ECW always did, and it's like graphics. MLW did that to start, but there's a certain charm that ECW still has. Like, it's not my favorite thing. I think it's too of the 90s and it hasn't aged well, but it does have a charm. And the imitators never, even if they have the same workers, they never capture the charm. So you get like all of the faults of ECW without like its good points.
See, ECW had this kind of counterculture. I'm trying to pick a good reference. It's like the line in I don't remember which Rage Against the Machine song was like, I won't do what you tell me. That was very ECW. And then everybody else who's doing it is like...
Filling in the name of?
Yes, thank you. Everybody else who's doing it is like, hey, you remember ECW? And it makes it dopey. And so... And the other thing, like, hindsight, I don't like it either, because I look at it and I'm like, oh, no, don't do that. And then all of the stuff that happened backstage, like, that colors my perception of it too. The thing that I think people forget is, say, oh, there was great wrestling in ECW. It's like, there was, but that's not what they were really marketing themselves on. They would throw in a great match like somewhere in the middle of the card, and then they would just have a train wreck spectacle in the main event spot.
If I could take it to the modern day, like, and I feel like they've gotten like way, way worse. It's really fallen off a cliff, in my opinion. But as of at least like 3-4 years ago, maybe a little longer, but like that, I felt was kind of like GCW, Game Changer Wrestling, was like that, where it's like you'd have like good wrestling on it, And then it's like, and now it's time for like, Matt Tremont versus Schlack in a death match. And it's like, I don't really want to see this. Like, I've really gotten out of deathmatch stuff in like the 15, 20 years since that was really big. But even then, so it's like, okay, all right, let me look at my watch. Oh, okay, all right, all right, now they got some light tubes they're gonna bust each other over the head with. Now the chairs, now they're gonna like, one guy's gonna body slam another one through like a door.
I think,
awesome.
And it's not good. But then you get like really good stuff. And I kind of find him annoying, but it'd be like, oh, now you're gonna get like a Blake Christian match, but it's gonna be like Blake Christian versus I don't know,
just
like
triggered
Leo
the
Rush.
shit out of Justin.
Yeah, but you're gonna get like Blake Christian versus like Leo Rush. It's gonna be like high flying stuff. It's gonna be like at least compelling, interesting. It's gonna, even if it's not like perfect, but it's gonna be like, oh, okay. And then you get even better stuff than that.
He's as bland as he is pale.
Yeah.
I will say,
but yeah, in ECW.
I was gonna say the other thing I realized with ECW when I was just mulling this in my head, I think why others don't capture its charm is like, when you watch a lot of ECW, like ECW doesn't totally take itself seriously. Like there's humor mixed in, there's like a wink and a nod, or you have like the Blue World Order like cosplaying as like Kiss. Like there is like a sense of humor to ECW buried under all of that. And the imitators often don't have that. And I think that's where GCW went wrong, is GCW lost kind of that sense of humor.
Yeah, I feel to really like at least be part of it, half the battle to me is like you got to be unique. And ECW was, but to do that, you obviously got to do things a little differently. But I think it's also, you have to both simultaneously take yourself completely seriously, like you're playing things straight, while also like just be willing to take the piss and just be completely unserious at points. Like you're in on your own joke. Like, and I think that you have to sometimes be silly. You can't be too silly because then you'll be taken as a joke. But yeah, like I don't really like ECW. I don't think it held up. But yeah, it had like a grit to it, and like you said, kind of like a charm. But it would do sometimes some silly stuff. And even the stuff that it's like you're supposed to take it seriously, it also was kind of wacky. I mean, it's obviously brutally violent. But New Jack just coming out at any point, you just hear like the music, and it's like, and like New Jack just appears with a trash can full of weapons, and then it's just going to be like brawling all over the arena and him diving off shit. It became kind of like a really weird, violent, dark version of like a Bugs Bunny cartoon. It's like now it's like Looney Tunes, just like now there's plunder and all sorts of wacky craziness.
Given the Looney Tunes street motif T-shirts that were big at the time, that's a very good comparison. You remember those things? It's so weird.
And a lot of them have like kind of the cynical cash grabbing nostalgia feel to them too. Like, do you remember the 90s? And it's like, yes, and like you can't recapture that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I thought about this the other day, is looking back at it. It's like, do you remember the 90s when everything was great? And I was like, okay, hang on. Was everything great, or is this nostalgia goggles? And I was like, okay, things that happened in the 90s. Rwanda. Okay, that's made my point.
Ruby Ridge, Waco, Oklahoma City bombing.
I just figured Rwanda was a good way of putting a cap on it. Yeah.
Kosovo.
All of those things around. Oh, that's right. We got Rwanda and Kosovo in the same decade. Oh God. It's like, were things prosperous? Sure, but good old days. It's like let's not 1950s Pleasantville this.
Well, the problem is I run into that a lot of people like, oh, things are just like so much more violent now and people are doing all this. Like, no, you just hear about all of it. Like, if you look at crime statistics, other than a few blips due to stuff like COVID, like crime has steadily been going down, especially like murder and violent crime has been going down in this country steadily for 40 years.
It's it's way, way different and way down from like the 90s. But you wouldn't necessarily know that if all you're doing is just like every day consuming like a dozen different true crime podcasts. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
You're
It's
probably
way
inundated with
down.
like, yeah.
It's way down since they took lead out of gasoline.
Well, actually, I have some theories that the proliferation of video games has a lot to do with why the crime rate has steadily
that they can
declined.
sublimate it.
That you can
sublimate the urges somewhere.
Yeah, and that it gives people something to do other than being on the streets being a jackass.
Oh, that's fair.
And also, like, you can, for some people, maybe, especially now with like stuff like MMOs, you might fall into an MMO with a guild or something instead of ending up on the streets with a gang, because that you get that sense
looking
of
for a place to belong.
Yeah,
I can see that. But it's like, man, the nostalgia goggles thing doesn't really work. It only works when you're tongue-in-cheeking it a little bit. I had someone explain it to me that in the 70s there was a music group called Shanana, which was guys that were dressed like greasers and covered 50 songs. And it was they were taking it so seriously. That's kind of the joke, is that they were so deep into the character and doing a good job with the songs that it was harmless, goofy fun. But you're trying to revive ECW. There's not harmless and goofy in that. Roadkill is kind of goofy, but nobody was portrayed as harmless in ECW.
Yeah. No, but I mean, there was some like tongue-in-cheeky stuff. Like even like Balls Mahoney was a bit like tongue-in-cheek while he was setting things on fire. So we go to this match. So I will say I kind of like the way Cena approached the first part of it, because he kind of came off like he was trying to sandbag Sabu. I think to really kind of piss off like the ECW crowd. He wasn't, but like the way he approached those early moves and the way he did them felt very sandbaggy, which I think
big leaguing.
Yeah, and I felt like that was an interesting approach to it. And then they kind of reversed the fortunes a bit, but I like that early start because it did the thing of the pro WWE people were into it because he was beating up this Invader guy, and then it pissed off the ECW mutants because he was big, like you said, he was big legging him.
I had a couple observations about this. One, obviously this was Cena had already won the title by this point, but so he had a rise. He obviously would go even higher. But I guess forgot this period. Because he still was kind of very much, he was edging away from it. He seemed like he's kind of still kind of in like the rap gimmick, because he had like a cadence to the way he was talking, stuff like that, and it's like, you're still kind of doing like the character, because it's not like the pure babyface Cena.
He had also just done the Marine, because whenever he came out, he saluted like this, and I'm like, dude, what the hell are you doing?
This era did have one of my favorite promo lines ever, where after RVD won the title, I think the second time, he comes out and he's doing the thing. He's like, in this title, it spins, and he like spins the
He goes,
spinner.
I'm the world heavyweight champion, and this belt spins.
Yeah.
I fell out of my chair laughing.
He promptly got busted smoking weed and lost the title.
Yeah, he should have had like a longer run than he did as champ. But the other observation I had,
who would have thought at that era that Rob Van Dam was smoking weed? Shocking.
I can't believe this.
I told someone the story the other day of the Rob Van Dam Rey Mysterio 420 leg drop, and Vince was like, "What do you call it that?" And RVD was like, "Oh, you don't know? No, what do you call it that?" "Oh, well, the both of us do it, so there's 4 feet, and our shoe sizes add up to 20. "Oh, okay."
Oh, okay.
Vince was
like, you dipshit.
Vince had like never touched any of that stuff, and like his whole, like, he probably had like no.
Yeah, no. If someone ever handed Vince a joint, I just have this image in my head of him chewing it up. Oh, what's this for? Oh.
Vince was just a pure Coke dude. That was I'm sure his drug of choice.
What was the 80s
the other
when
observation
he came up? So probably.
No, I think wasn't it. I don't know if it's like true or not, but I mean the rumor was like because didn't he and Hogan like I don't know if they really officially wrote it, but I think they like did their own draft of No Holds Barred, and allegedly it's like they just did a bunch of blow and like cranks out a draft over the weekend.
We do.
Know. That's a very crazy movie that we should probably review at some point.
I have this dream of us taking like a month one year and just doing like all of the Hogan movies like sequentially. Because I'll defend it.
I got frozen today.
Suburban Commando.
Thank you for the redeeming line, Matt. I appreciate.
I will defend Suburban Commando is not a bad movie.
It's not bad.
It's not good, but it's not
by the
bad.
rankings. It's nowhere near like the top '90s comedies, like Ace Ventura or Dumb and Dumber or stuff like that.
No, it's a solid B tier.
It's better. It's better than it has any right to be. Like it's not for adults really. Like for like kids, especially like young kids. That it was basically what it needed to be.
Look, on a bet, I watched Santa with Muscles. I almost chewed a hole in my cheek because just how frustratingly awful it was. Because it's just like, this is bullshit.
What would we What would we be in for? We'd be in for No Holds Barred, Suburban Commando, Santa with Muscles, and then the Mr. Mom knockoff. I don't remember what that one's called.
Mr. Nanny.
Mr. Nanny.
Yeah.
And then he also appeared in Three Ninjas Showdown at Thunder Mountain.
That doesn't count. Because we'd have to do Rocky 3. I will say, too, he's good in Rocky 3 as Thunder Lips. Like, he's really good in that.
Well,
and Gremlins 2.
How can I best put this? He was featured as being in Three Ninjas High Noon at Thunder Mountain, featuring Hulk Hogan.
We'd have to do that then. He's also good in Gremlins 2. He's in it for like 20 seconds, but he's actually good in that.
I'm just gonna add. I know it's a dream for you, Brad, but I'm gonna need a lot of prep. I'm going to need like a vacation with my family. And
look, we'll do Suburban Commando.
Being well rested for a week, because otherwise, if I'm trying to watch this stuff, I'm just going to be sitting there like just jamming, like playing Mumbly Peg, except missing entirely, because it'll make me feel something other than some other kind of pain. And Vectron, please don't bring up Thunder in Paradise on DVD. You know what? Here, one redeeming thing. The boat from Thunder in Paradise showed up in one of the episodes of the Vietnam River trip of the Grand Tour. Richard Hammond was driving the speedboat from Thunder in Paradise.
We could just break it up with Suburban Commando like in the middle, because like I said, I will defend that movie. It's not bad.
It is not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it is a rare like I would say it's like a single, like if you were to like equate it to baseball, like they got a single, maybe off of an error, but they got on base with it.
It's Santa with Muscles is just so stupid.
So
like it is. Can we go back to talking about ECW? It might be less painful.
How would we rank them? So it'd be Suburban Commando would be the best one, and then would we say No Holds Barred is 2?
I think everything else is tied for last.
So I'd say it'd go Suburban Commando, No Holds Barred, Mr. Nanny, and then Santa with Muscles.
I'm trying to look up the exact quote because there's another really good quote from that movie. Where he's I forget even like the villain. I know what the villain was, but I don't forget the name of the villain. He's like an alien warlord or something like that.
Yeah.
And what was Hulk Hogan's name in that?
I don't
Kip
remember.
or something like.
It's probably one like
Rip.
they probably use
Like
they probably use the Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, Shep Ramsey.
Yeah, they use the Arnold
yeah,
Schwarzenegger namer.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm gonna get an incognito window up, okay? Like that way.
But anyway, it's like towards the end, he's like facing off with like the main villain, the alien warlord, and Hulk Hogan is like, trashing him. He's like of all the vain, egotistical, and the villain stops him and he goes, "I'm not vain, a little proud, maybe." He delivers it like so perfectly. I'm like, it's 30 plus years and I still remember that, like his delivery, because that for such a hammy movie, like he did it perfectly. It's like, I'm not vain. Like I look a little proud, man. like so offended.
Christopher
so
Lee
offended that he called him vain.
Christopher Lee does save that movie.
Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lloyd.
It's a Christopher Lloyd. It is a movie, a Hulk Hogan movie with Christopher Lloyd and Shelley Duvall in it. It's like, they must have had a house payment coming or something.
I don't know.
Or Christopher Lloyd's just like, whatever. I'm willing to work.
He was cashing those big checks he was getting from Back to the Future still.
There's another good line. This movie actually has some good lines. Remember like the line where he's like, something happens and like the neighbor, the big fat neighbor or something like that, and like Hulk Hogan like messes up like his car or something stupid. I forget. I remember lines. I forget little details exactly.
Yeah.
But and the guy's like all pissed off about it. He's like a big burly dude, and Hulk Hogan's like, "Yeah, what are you gonna do, huh? Like you to punch me in the face?" And the guy's like, "Are you crazy? This is the '90s. I'm gonna sue you. You're gonna be hearing from my attorney." And it's like, they subverted like some tropes there with some of that stuff, which I thought was clever.
Yeah. We'll do that someday. It's been my dream since we started this podcast to do a Hulk Hogan month.
Vectron's saying that he cameoed in like 6 episodes of the A-Team as well, so...
Oh, that makes sense because he and Mr. T were in tight at the time.
Yeah. Just... Oh, God.
Best thing Mr. T ever did, of course, was Rocky 3.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah. Because he... Clubber-Lang!
He was... My prediction, pain.
Hey.
I just like the hey woman.
Hey woman. What'd you get with the real man?
You really didn't see Mr. T as a heel much, so I appreciated that.
His appearances on Conan O'Brien were pretty funny too. Because there's this one where he was in like lederhosen. He's like, I got needs too, chicken legs.
The one that I remember was, oh, that's something for the future. And the curtain opens and it's Mr. T wearing like the collar and cloak. The future, Conan?
The year 2000.
You know, funny side note on the Conan O'Brien show, but I guess it's well known that Andy Richter was always seen on set with copies of the Wrestling Observer when they were shooting.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's established that he's like a wrestling fan.
I would love. He'll never do it, and I understand why. But I would love to see like Meltzer's like subscriber list, just to see who had subscriptions for him to spill the beans. Because I just want to know like some of the crazy like celebrities or who in the business had subscriptions, stuff like that.
Oh, I'm sure I'm sure he knows. Like, maybe not everyone, because I mean, like Meltzer isn't the most savvy. So what if like, some actors using like their real name, for example, some celebrities using their real name, like he may not know. Like but he
looks at his list and goes, "Oh, Nicolas Cage must be an indie guy I never heard of."
Yeah. Now I will say going back to the match, I do not know how Sabu didn't break his ass on that table spot.
The table spot. So there's a spot where there's a table set up outside, and John Cena does the FU, so the Death Valley driver, his version of a Death Valley driver, over the ropes to the table on the outside. And Sabu, I wrote down in my notes like that was rough because he took the bump where basically his ass like hit the table and the table like broke and all.
And he hit right where he hit right where the table legs met the table. Like he didn't go in the middle of it. He just hit towards the edge.
But that table was like I say it as a joke, but like millennials and their tables, because you could see it already like bending in the middle because all the supports were gone, so that table was gonna.
Yeah.
I thought that was a dumb spot because the second it happened, I'm like, I don't know whose fault that was. Both of theirs, I'm guessing, but I was kind of like, that's a dumb spot, you guys. You should have done it on the apron because you were never going to get enough clearance to get him through that.
You could not get enough distance, no.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like they thought it was a great idea at the time, and as soon as that happened, they're probably like, ooh, like that was dumb.
Yeah. By the way, this is like towards like the very end of the match, but I wrote in my notes, like for the very beginning when all the WWE Lumberjacks were announced, I wrote like what a dire period the WWE, because it was like, wow, y'all are really scraping the bottom of the barrel.
It was like Viscera. I saw because there's one point like
Gene Snitsky.
I know. I was like, is it Gene Snitsky? Because
Garrison Cade,
the miscarriage creator.
Yeah,
Trevor Murdoch. Yeah,
Trevor Murdoch, Garrison Cade, Val Venus.
Was Val out there?
Yes, Val Venus was there. Yeah.
Yeah, this is maybe it was his Chief Morley phase, but same dude.
It was bad. I'm like, wow, like what the state.
It's like, oh yeah, this is what you're bringing to it.
And people forget, like that point in time, like there were guys in the mid card that it's like, if you tried them out today, like no one would be. They'd be like, who's this guy? Like no one would even remember them. They were terrible.
Yeah,
I had trouble remembering.
So completely unforgettable.
I will say though, man, Sandman must have been excited for this gig because I've never seen him in as good a shape as he was in this match.
There was a weird brief period where he got in shape.
I know, and he was like jacked.
And he was intense.
Yeah.
Because they had that one camera shot at the beginning, and he's just staring down the camera like, that's right, won't beat your ass and take your woman.
Yeah.
He's just glaring at it, and you're like, Mr. Sandman, I did not know what I had done to offend.
Yeah. But I thought this was, it wasn't great, but it was an okay match. My problem with it is like the music video, like the video package and the entrances took longer than the actual match, which bugged the shit out of me.
Oh, the actual match itself was like, I think 6 minutes long. I actually feel like they could have done more. They had another match, I think, like a couple weeks later, but I wasn't able to find that one. I think that was from June 7th, 2006.
Was that the one that was on Raw?
I think that was on.
Well, I don't know if it was on. They had one on Raw that was before RVD won the title because they were talking about RVD was going to face him then. And you know what the finish was? Nothing. Bunch of run-ins. So it was a real ECW match.
It felt like this match felt like they were running late and they had to cut time off of this.
Oh, well, this is right before the main event, which was DX of Shawn Michaels and Triple H against the Spirit Squad.
So they needed 45 minutes.
Oh, let me actually look that up. Let me look it up.
Okay, I'm gonna guess.
I'm gonna guess at least 30.
28 minutes.
Not to be Price's Right guy, I'm gonna say 36.
I'm going 28.
2006. Let's look. I'm pulling it up on Wikipedia. So like I got a cage match, but whatever.
Yep.
Scrolling down. Blah blah blah.
Keep scrolling.
I'm shocked. it was only 17 minutes and 45 seconds.
Triple H must have been tired that night.
Oh, Sean.
I'm even more shocked. It's 10 seconds less than Rob Van Dam versus Edge, which was also on the card. But I'm sure once you factored in entrances and Triple H,
probably
like that, it was probably like 45 minutes.
One thing about the Spirit Squad I have to admit is I got a big kick out of finding the innovative way they did to do stuff like off the ring apron, off the trampoline, into the jumping clothesline, or the 5-man just fling your ass as far up into the air as we can and you fall to the mat. Which, as I remember, was only taken by Shawn Michaels once, I think. Like, that might have been the only time they used it, but it's all 5 dudes that are just like, whoop! And you see Shawn Michaels go up in the air, and then he's on the way down, and you can see him going, I should not have agreed to this.
They killed a whole generation of potential, like, at least contributors with how they handled the Spirit Squad. Because the Spirit Squad, like, I didn't like the gimmick, but they got it over, and then they just got buried.
I think the only ones that came out of it with anything was, what was it? Ziggler was in that.
Ken Doane and Ziggler are the only two that like survived it all after that, and I think Doane only lasted like in the undercard for a year.
And he went by Kenny Dykstra, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Johnny Jeter just quit after that, and he was super talented until like he did.
Who did?
Johnny Jeter. He quit for like, he came back and did some Chikara shows like way later, but he just stopped wrestling, and he was actually kind of talented. God. So do we want to head over to our main event? So this is...
Wait, I got one other thing to say about this match. The finish pissed me off, because you do this whole lead in, here come all these known ECW guys, here come the dregs of our mid-card, for the WWF, WWE side, whatever. And what is the finish? Is the ECW guys are like, all right, we're going to do our thing. They get wiped out by the bottom of the WWE mid-card, and then Cena rather sloppily pitches Sabu to the... It's just like, this... Wow. That is... All these guys are out here, and you're banking on their aura and this sort of stuff. And it's like, by the way, now we're going to use this finish to just piss all over them. That really, really frustrated me.
It wasn't even Big Daddy V Viscera. It was just Viscera.
Yeah, it was just Viscera.
Yeah.
Like, there was that brief period where, like, he found a gimmick that kind of worked for him, and he was almost kind of interesting.
Where he was supposed to be a ladies' man.
No, there was a point after that where he was like wearing like more of like a traditional setup.
Oh, when he had the singlet, they were pushing him as just a monster.
Yeah, he was kind of almost like interesting at that point. Like, I don't think he was good, but I was almost like, oh, like, this is kind of working for you.
Yeah. It's just kind of being the looming thread on the upper mid card for WWE CW.
Yeah, like I thought that was pretty decent when it happened, but okay. So NWA Grand Slam. So we did the Sabu Sean Waltman match last week. So this is a Dennis Corleone show. This happened on April 17th, 1993, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And this says that there are 700 people in attendance, which it looked pretty sold. Like, I'll say that. I don't necessarily think that's gimmicked.
Allegedly it was 700 people.
Yeah.
Which some of the shots it didn't necessarily seem that many, but towards the very end when they there was a lot more crowd shots, it did look pretty pretty busy.
Yeah.
So.
And our announcers here are Mick Karch, who we saw when we did the AWF, and Christian Dady, I think was what they said. Mick Karch as an announcer he's okay. They were kind of...
He wasn't bad.
The other guy sucked, though.
He wasn't good, but Nick Karch?
Mick Karch.
Nick Karch. Like, he wasn't great, but I also think he wasn't terrible, and he at least seemed experienced, and that he actually tried. And it wasn't necessarily great, but he actually did some things on commentary that I thought it's what a commentator should do, where it's like you're trying to get certain guys over, and you're trying to get certain stuff over. So I think that was done correctly. I got a question overall though, like I mean, if this was 2003, like a ton of stuff would have been taped.
Yeah,
like every show you did would have been taped. Not even because streaming wasn't a thing, but with the idea, it's like, oh, we'll put this on like VHS or DVD, and sell it at the shows or sell it, on a website, whatever. But in 1993, like that, a lot of indie stuff, like that wasn't the case. So what was the point of? Do we know what the point of taping this was? Was it for like distribution, or was it trying to get like a TV deal, or?
I'm thinking it was for distribution because they talk about this PWA show, so I'm guessing because like at the time, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, like you could contact Jim Cornette and get a subscription with him, and you'd pay him so much a month, and then you just get tapes of them every time they did TV. So you would and ECW later did that, where you could just sign up and get the tapes and pay for them as you go. So that was kind of becoming a thing in the 90s. So I'm guessing because this is Dennis Corluzzo who was promoting a lot. I think this was I think they're realizing, hey, if we tape this, we can make some money.
So I looked this up a little bit. So this, even though it's titled NWA Grand Slam, and Dennis Corluzzo may have been like the booker promoter. This was basically Pro Wrestling America, PWA.
Yeah.
Which was run out of Minneapolis, and that's true because if I looked up the different guys in the card, because there's some guys obviously we've heard of.
Yeah.
But there's actually a ton of guys who also I didn't know, so I looked it up, and it's like, oh, they're basically like
they're like an AW. They're kind of
Midwest kind of guys.
They're kind of like an indie that picked up the pieces of the AWA, because like there's
a little bit, yeah. That it did kind of strike me a little bit as that,
because you'll see some AWA leftovers on there, like local guys and stuff.
Yeah, at this time, they were, even though Dennis Corluzzo may have actually booked this, it was owned at the time by former wrestler Eddie Sharkey, who is one of the referees here.
A lot of these are his.
And
a lot of these
feel like
are
I've
his
seen
guys.
him before.
A lot of these are his guys. You'd see him on AWA shows, and he trained the
guys he's trained. Yeah,
he
guys
trained
he's like trained. Not that's
Well, he trained all those the Minnesota boys, like the big bad crew, like I think Kurt Hennig, Rick Rude, the Road Warriors, like those guys I think are all his. Larry Cameron's one of his guys. So yeah, he's kind of. Is he the PWA promoter too?
I generally think he was. It looks like he owned it until '95, and then he's co-owned it with Terry Fox, who is just he may have been a wrestler, I don't really know, but he owned it with him until like 2000, and then I think he got out of it. But PWA, it looks like, according to Cage Match, it still kind of has been around a little bit, but not really. Like they had put out a few shows up in like a year up until like 2014, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's been like 5 shows since like 2014.
That's a pretty good run, though.
Sorry, 20 maybe 6 shows since 2014.
That's a pretty solid run, though. But they this is there's a lot of roots in the AWA here, though, because that guy, I can't think of his name now, Wally Carbo, they were honoring at the start of the show. He was a big AWA guy. So this has its roots in the AWA. I'd say even the style, it's kind of AWA-ish in how they work the matches and stuff. So yeah. I couldn't. It was on the tip of my tongue, and it was Wally Carbo. But yeah, he was a big AWA promoter that they were honoring, and Eddie Sharkey was an AWA guy. So our first match of the day, Brad Riggins defeats the Tazmaniac in a boring ass match that I did not like.
This I didn't like. I thought it was okay. But it was only like 5-6 minutes or something like that. You didn't really get to see. I mean, it's interesting, I guess, historically, because I hadn't really seen a lot of Taz and his Tazmaniac gimmick, where he's like, the crazy wild man. It's supposed to be like a caveman or something like that, a savage,
like a wild animal kind of thing.
I thought he was trying to be the Tasmanian devil. Honestly,
he didn't spin it.
Maybe, but he's not. He doesn't really like wrestle like a madman. He's not wrestling like Kamala. He's like, still doing like suplexes and stuff like that. And then they're trying to get over it. It's like, oh, like I don't know if he understands English and all this stuff. It's like, okay, guys. I mean, yes, we're still in kayfabe, but I thought it was okay. I thought Brad Riggins in like AWA? I think that's where I saw him.
He's done some WWE. He was in AWA forever. I think he helped train Kurt Hennig too. He's helped train some guys. Wasn't generally
his claim to fame, like his claim to fame was that he trained Brock.
Maybe. All I know is I've seen a lot of him, and he's very boring.
He's pretty bland. I think he seems technically very good, and if he has trained guys like Kurt Hennig or Brock, like he's obviously there's skill there, but he is boring. He's bland.
He's kind of prototypical of what I'd say is like a modern indie guy with he's technically proficient with very little personality attached to it.
Yeah, that checks out.
Like I said, I had him
pretty out of shape here.
He's old at this point, and he's not doing it full time. But like, to give you an idea of what I thought of him, I did this big booking project on PWO where you pretty much ran a territory system. Each of you had a territory, so you trade talent back and forth and stuff. So I had him for a while. And he can tell you what I think of him. My big idea with him was I had Jimmy Hart with a mask, and he'd bring in like established talent under masks. And it was all obvious. Like Gordon Solie was my main announcer, and he knew it was Jimmy Hart, and they'd get in arguments every week. So I brought in Brad Riggins, who was with Jimmy Hart, who I think was the Marvelous Masked Manager. I did something stupid like that. So I would have Brad Riggins come out in a mask, and he'd take the mask off and wrestle. And then Solie would say, well, that's Brad Riggins. Like, and Jimmy Hart just be like, no, it's not. And then I think I called him Mr. USA, the Olympic grappler or something like that. But that's how much I thought of him, that's what I did for the gimmick. And Solie would get very mad that he took the mask off, and they still wouldn't like say who it was. But I had like Coco Ware there as like Stagger Lee, and I think Norville Austin was the Shadow, and Dusty Rhodes came in as the Midnight Rider and then turned on them because he unmasked. But that was the whole joke about it. But like I said, that's what I thought of him, that I did something like that with him, where he didn't have to talk either. And people actually liked it. Some people were like, well, I can't believe you found something interesting to do with Brad Riggins.
So just to add it in, I didn't like this match either. I was bored by it. And then it ended. And the best thing about it was that it ended.
Well, what I didn't like about it could have been interesting, but there was no story, obviously, because it's an indie show. But I thought Riggins gobbled him up a little too much for it to be interesting.
Like I said, it's just I was not here for it. It's just like, no, I don't want to. Nope, don't care.
Yeah, I mean, was it? We should maybe discuss this at the end of the show. But I mean, what was the intent of this show? Was it because some of the matches I'm like, you're not. This doesn't seem to me like you're building a storyline or anything. Like you're kind of just booking a match. But some of these matches, it's like
they might have been.
Okay, but
they might have been test running something to like maybe I thought the same thing. I didn't know what they were going for. It might have just been a one-off. Maybe this is like a bot show for some, like the casino paid to have a show there to draw people in. But
maybe
I don't know. The problem is like this is the problem with '90s wrestling though. This show is a good example of it. Is you get like established talent that come in, they don't want a job, and they kind of half-ass it, and you see it on this show a bit. But that's like the problem when you get like when you watch early ECW, you watch like the UWF with like Herb Abrams. They're always working around guys not wanting a job, and it's like it's a fucking indie show, guys. Like one of you can.
There's 700 people here.
Yeah, someone just take the fall for God's sake.
Yeah. Okay, so our next match is Lethal Larry Cameron defeats Tommy Ferreira. So Larry Cameron is an interesting kind of footnote in history. So he works in WCW. He was in Stampede, and he died in the ring actually later in 1993.
8 months.
Yep.
8 months from now, from this show.
And I think he's an interesting oddity because, like, I'm surprised he didn't get more of a run somewhere because, like, he has the look. He's not terrible. And I sent you a promo of him talking. He's actually a pretty decent talker. Like, I'm surprised someone didn't, like, give him a bigger shot.
I never saw it, but it seems like in the late 80s, he had some decent success in Stampede. But that was past the point where Stampede was, like, a big thing. So, okay. And he was, I guess, briefly in WCW with Doom, but that was probably, I would guess, like 90, 91, which was after, well, it was really before I started watching. And we haven't seen him, like, when we were watching some of the Dangerous Alliance stuff. Like, he must have been gone by then, or he was on.
He was around 90, 91.
Yeah. And he was part of Doom, but it's like the third member of Doom. And it's like, okay. Like, obviously, like, Hacksaw Butch Reed didn't hang around, like, that long, so maybe you replaced him. But I don't know. He didn't really seem like he had, like, a run in WCW. So, but he had size to him. He could talk a bit.
He's the above average like, talker, I thought, when the promos I watched of him.
It seemed to me, and he here in '93, like, he wasn't like a rookie. He'd been around a while, like a few years at this point. But it also seemed to me, it's like he's probably one of those guys that's like, I don't know that he was doing like 500 matches a year, or even like 200 matches a year necessarily. But he was working, but I don't know if this was like his day job per se. Maybe it was, but it seemed like he finally. Maybe like around this time, he had started to click a little more. Like he started to put the pieces together. I mean, Chad, you were a worker. It's like sometimes some people need more time. You
just got to be doing it for you to really get it. That's
but sometimes,
the hell of it.
But also, like, you could be like technically good, or you may have like positive things. So you're a good talker, like you're decent enough in the ring, but maybe you're not like you don't really know what your character is, or like putting it all together. And it seems like maybe he was building all those pieces together. And then late '93, he did a show. I think it was a show in Germany.
Yeah, I think so.
Died in the ring.
Wrestling Tony St. Clair, I think is who he was wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched some promos, and there was one he was complaining about his competition. He's like, man, they got me out here fighting all these losers with funny last names, and it got a laugh out of me.
From watching this match, I was not high on him at all. Well, there was one moment, but
he seemed adequate.
Go ahead.
He seemed adequate to me.
The problem with this match to me was like, and this is why, again, I have to go back to the question. It's like, what was this card? Like, what were they trying to do here? Because this, to me, was like, this was basically like a glorified squash match. Like, he basically, for like 90 to 95% of the match, like, was basically squashing Tommy Ferrara.
Yeah.
Who, I guess he was... I looked it up also. Like, he was part of the PWA. He was one half of the PWA tag title.
Yeah.
But I didn't see where it really, like, there was this big tournament, and like Tommy Ferrara was like this big push guy. I looked Tommy Ferrara up. if Cage Match is to be believed, he had 22 matches in his entire career.
Well, he had
most of them was with Larry Cameron. I'm not even joking. They had, and they even mentioned it kind of on commentary. The main commentator, not the other guy. Whoever, what was his name again?
Oh, Christian something.
No, with the other guy.
Oh, Mick Karch. Mick, like Foley.
Okay. Mick even mentioned it's like, oh, they've had battles with each other, and it's like they did. If you looked up Cage Match, they had like at least a handful of matches before then. But it's like Tommy Ferrara I thought he was a jobber. He looks like a jobber. This was glorified squash. I thought he was a jobber, and they're hyping him up on it. They even go. This is '93, so this wouldn't have been like, I guess, crazy after the fact. But they're like, oh, Tommy Ferrara, Vietnam veteran. I'm like the Vietnam War probably ended even at this point, like 20 years ago. Like, you really got to aging this dude. Like, how old is this dude? But it was weird. He has 22 matches total.
Well,
and a big old mullet.
You have to remember too, though, Cage Match is what got reported, and if he's not working like a mainstream promotion, he's working like Minnesota Indies. This guy's probably worked a couple hundred. Because like if you look up, you can't, like Shad doesn't have a page on Cage Match. But you can find 2 or 3 of his matches if you know where to look. But this guy's probably like Shad, where he worked a bunch of shows, but no one's ever reported it because it just wasn't where it wasn't seen by people that were going to go to Cage Match.
Wanted to put it out there.
Yeah.
Who did you find me? Oh, you found that
super
promotion show.
Yeah, that Kentucky Super Show you were
That's
on.
what it was.
There's another one I think you were in there, but I think that was an Alex. Maybe it was someone you had wrestled that has like a page. Maybe your Larry D match made it in there.
I would be shocked.
But yeah, I'm sure this guy's had quite a few matches. It's just they've never gotten reported.
So
maybe
the reason that I did not like this match, like you said, it's basically a glorified squash. Is that Lethal Larry does a move, whatever. I mean, it's not like anybody on the show was doing a lot of particularly complex stuff. It's fine. It's 1993 indie show. But he would do the move, and then he would stop and slowly pace around the ring while he was flexing. Not like actively flexing, just like shoulders rolled up, arms pulled in, and he'd walk around real slowly and look at him. And he's like, okay, let's do the next thing, and he goes down and he does it again, and I'm like, this is the thing that I was like specifically warned against, is don't do that and then wander away. Don't do that and then wander around like you forgot what you were going to do next. Like, stay near the guy you're working. And I'm just like, oh. And then whenever Ferrara starts doing a comeback, Larry sells for him a decent bit, but it's all of 2 moves. Ferrara does 2 offensive moves, and then Larry kills him dead with whatever the hell. And that's all there was to it. And I was like, for a moment there I was having hope in this because you were selling for him, and now it's over. And so I have no hope, and I hate this match.
Usually if they sell okay, though, you can tell they at least have some level of competency. Because usually guys
that is true.
Usually because Larry Cameron isn't a stiff, but usually a stiff, if it was his turn to sell, would be like, oh, ow.
That's the hell of it, is that Larry Cameron's not a stiff, but he moves like he should be.
Yeah. But that again...
That could be an artistic choice, though.
But still...
That's what was this show? Because it almost seemed like they worked out, like, well, really, this match is supposed to be... It's a showcase for me, Larry Cameron. Like, for whatever reason, he was trying to get, a bigger gig.
Yeah, maybe.
They were trying to make this PWA stuff, maybe like they were trying to get like a local TV spot. Like, I don't know. But it did seem like it was kind of like to showcase him, like, oh, like the powerhouse, Lethal Larry Cameron, whatever. But I don't know. glorified squash, in my opinion, it just wasn't. It didn't click with me.
Yeah.
It was there.
Yeah.
It occupied time and space.
I would give it a star. Okay.
I don't even know that I would give it that much, but
compared to some other stuff on this show, this was not terrible.
Oh God.
Okay, so we're gonna go on to our next match. So our next match, Chris Candido with his useless manager TR Shock defeats Jerry Lynn.
I tried to find that guy, like, and I know I couldn't find anything on that guy, like, but I think he actually has, like, he at least was in like a battle royal or two somewhere. That's like, was he a worker? Was he trying to be? Was he just like a hanger on?
I don't know. Maybe
like Eddie Sharkey's like buddy that he's.
Maybe he was just some hanger on at the shows, and he wanted to like do something in the ring. Like, I'll put you in a battle royal, like, because you don't have to like do anything.
Well, he clearly must have had like some training because he was taking spots here. So it's like, if I'm untrained, even if I want to be a manager, I'm not going to get in a ring and have like, you know, let's say I have a heel manager. If I'm not trained, I haven't taken bumps or whatever like that, I'm not going to go in there, and let's say Shad's the face. I'm not going to have it go in there and necessarily have like Shad like be doing spots on me. Like, I trust him to keep me safe, but I'm also like, what if I don't know how to fall? Like, I don't know how to like take a bump right. Like, he could body slam me, and I don't know how to take the bump right. Like, concuss myself because I'm not like tucking my head like I'm supposed to be.
If we were in that situation, Matt, I'm taking you to the corner, I'm draping your arms over the top, and I go, just hang there and act like I'm beating the shit out of you, and then I'm throwing like body shots and forearms. And you know what?
Yeah.
People are going to be like, oh yeah, it makes sense. He'd be beating the hell out of him over there. And then when it's time to go out, I just say, hey, hold on, here we go, whoop, and you're done.
I've known a couple of guys that got involved, and then they ended up doing spots before they were trained. But I think the worker like worked with them before the show, just to do their couple of like whatever with it. Because I mean, if you're not doing anything like too complicated, like it's like, okay, well, I want to punch you out. Like, okay, so let's go over here where we're going to show you how to fall. Blah blah blah.
Yep.
So this was this match was kind of, which I have to say, Chris Candido is really underappreciated for what a little like shit he is.
Oh, here's the thing. This match was not a 5-star classic.
No.
But Candido and Jerry Lynn knew what the assignment was. Go out there, have a heel v face match, and this is your finish. And they did the heel face dynamic so well, because Chris Candido was not just doing heel stuff. He was doing heel stuff, but he was also doing the annoying little shithead heel stuff. And it doesn't have to be huge, but he was willing to bail. He was willing to run away from him. He was willing to beg off. He was willing to do all this sort of stuff.
I thought this was the second best match of the show.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
But I was a little thrown off because I feel, from what we saw of them, especially later in their careers, like Jerry Lynn and Chris Candido could have had a better match in them. So I was maybe expecting something different, and maybe that was an error on my part. But they did work a basic heel versus face match, which I was thrown off because I'm like, what's with all like the shtick? But I mean, if you again look at wrestling as like an art form, which I do, like I think that's what's lost on a lot of people. It's not it. If you really actually love and respect pro wrestling, like it's an art form. It is an art form. Some people do it at a very high level. Some people don't do it well. And you can mask not doing it well by smoke and mirrors and everything, aura, whatever. But sometimes the technical aspects of things you do really well. And Chris Candido had it down, and like Chris Candido was doing all like the heel shtick. Like they've become like tropes at this point if you're a wrestling fan. Like you've seen all this stuff, but he would do some of the classic stuff. You know, like Jerry Lynn would like, you know, do something like throw him whatever, hip toss, so would arm drag, stuff like that. And Chris Candido would beg off and be like, ref, like, you know, pantomime, like he pulled my hair. Yeah. Or he'd like, at one point, you saw like his tights were like, one side of his tights is like half up his ass cheek. And it's like, Jerry, he pulled my tights, Yeah. Like just the classic heel shtick, just like the playing the hits.
I was actually thinking I was actually thinking about him before this show. I don't think Candido ever worked face for any extended period of time, and I was like, I think it's interesting that he really embraced, because I think Candido just is really good at being unlikable. Like seeing someone not shy away from that and just being like yeah, people want to smack the shit out of me. I'm gonna go a whole hog on that.
Yeah, I think he was way better than Brian Christopher, but we were kind of seeing with USWA. It's like Brian Christopher, like to me, it's like you were way better as a heel because I just want to slap your face. You're like that annoying. Mm-hmm. And the times when he was like a face, it's like this doesn't work for me. Like especially like his we talked about it before. I talked about it before. His biggest run was, you know, you're like the dumb, you know, dancing babyface grandmaster sexay thing, but it's like you're better as a heel. Like Chris Candido, I think was a way better worker than Brian Christopher, better character, everything. But yeah, like
he is, but I would say Christopher's underrated as a worker, I think.
When he was a heel, I think that he was much better than I'm thinking the grandmaster sexay stuff. But yeah, I agree with you that I don't think I can't recall an extended period where Candido was a face. Like he's always kind of like a
because especially heel. Especially when you add like Tammy in, like Tammy like just cranks that up to 11 because the thing is like he and Tammy have like really great chemistry together, and she like, I mean, and she really doesn't get enough credit for knowing like how to work a character and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, she was that's the thing, she was so good at working a character.
Especially when you watch your SMW stuff and realize she's like 19 years old and she like just gets it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is perfectly acceptable. This would have been like a fine TV match, or like that opening match at like a house show to get like the crowd like working.
They went out there and played the hits, and that's fine. They didn't have to come up with a bunch of new stuff, and it worked out just fine.
I agree. Like again, I thought it was pretty decent. I was, like I said, a little thrown off. Like I guess it was when I was expecting. Maybe I had a bad frame of reference because I'm thinking when I saw like it's Chris Candido versus Jerry Lynn, I was like, ooh, that's gonna be good. And I guess my mindset was more like thinking of them in the way they were like 5 to 7 years from now, from this period.
Well, I would say, especially when you take Smoky Mountain into consideration, which I think is Candido's best work. Candido's probably in his like prime as like a character / worker, like heading into it.
Yeah. So I was a little thrown off because I was expecting a little more than we got, more just a basic heel versus face match. I was kind of a little bit bothered by the finish just because I felt it was like overbooked. There's like ref bumps and it's kind of an overbooked mess. There was a lot between like the ref bump and the chain shot that eventually like won the match.
Yeah.
I felt like y'all are trying to do like a lot here, and I don't feel it was necessary. But
in defense of it,
a minor quibble.
In defense of it, they didn't really overbook anything else too bad, so
that's fair.
It was at least this is okay. Like this would have been a fine TV match. Like there was nothing to complain about here. I don't think. Like I agree with you. I expected it to be better. It was okay. I have no complaints.
I don't know what I would rate this. I know we don't really rate, but
I give it 2.5. Smack dab in the middle average match.
I feel like I'd probably give it like 2.5 too. Which again, I would I would be like, oh, I would have been expecting like 3.5 or so, and it wasn't, but
I would expect it to be as
it
good
was
as
fine.
Waltman and Sabu is what I would have gone in
Yeah.
expecting.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Now, I do have complaints about the next match because I fucking hated this match. This is Billy Blaze defeated Horace the Psychopath. I actually know who Horace the Psychopath is. I think from EWR back in the day. I know the name. But
God, I
had to
hated
look
this
him up.
match.
I had to look him up. He's retired by now, but he was around apparently a long ass time. This dude had like a 25-year career.
Yeah, because he didn't have to fucking do anything. Because he just did like his like goofy ass shit and didn't have to bump or anything.
I really, yeah, go ahead.
Here's the problem though. There are points in this match. I hated it too. I didn't think it was good. I thought Horace the Psychopath is like a shit gimmick. He wasn't he didn't do his character work was shitty. It's like you're doing like this pastiche of every like crazy like wacky psycho character, but not you're not like the you're not like the like we've seen like in the USWA like the violent crazy psychopath Moondogs.
Yeah,
you're like the Norman the Lunatic type of thing, which would have probably been like a couple years after like the WCW Norman the Lunatic gimmick. You're almost doing like some face wacky gimmick thing.
No, I think he's supposed to be a heel.
There are points in this which it seemed like the actual guy may have had some technical capabilities. Like at one point, like Billy Blaze gives him like an arm drag. No, a hip toss. And Horace was like a small dude. He was not like your Billy Blaze is wrestling like a 140-pound dude. Like Horace had some size to him. And Horace takes the hip toss. Like he completely like flips himself over in like a complete flip. And I'm like, I could not do that if I tried. Like no way. Like so he had like something in there. I mean, maybe some sort of athletic capabilities. But God, it was just wasted on a bad gimmick and just was not good. And Billy Blaze is probably, you might have found a more boring worker than Tommy Ferrara from earlier. Like just nondescript. Like
yeah, it was.
Let me hear you trash it, Shaq.
Okay, so look, if you're gonna go to the ring and do the "woo, I'm crazy" gimmick, one of the oddest things about it is that you need a measure of consistency. You need some are we dealing with someone who is a violent crazy person, or are we dealing with someone who doesn't know where they are? And so what they were doing with Horace the Psychopath is just swinging back and forth between face stuff and heel stuff, and then goofing around and dragging ass and being like, oh, blah, blah. And it was I was just watching this going like, dude, this is not good. Like I'm actively annoyed by how you're doing this. You're like, I'm doing heel stuff. And then all of a sudden, you're like, oh no, shake the hand of friendship right here. Shake the hand of friendship. And I'm like, what are we doing? Are you guys just like filling time? And I don't know. I really, really did not like this.
Horace did work a single WWE dark match at a Shotgun Saturday Night, and he defeated some guy named Sonny Rogers. And this is just interesting because we know who it is. He beat Lenny Lane in an AWF match in '96.
Huh. That was right before Lane's big push, wasn't it?
Well, Lane, I think, was like a jobber in WCW for a while before.
Yeah, he was.
But just interesting that he got dark match. They might have just been filling a spot.
Yeah, it's kind of what I'm getting. Yeah.
But yeah, this sucked. And Billy Blaze was like, I don't know. He was probably like a 0.75 on the Blake Christensen scale. There was just nothing there. Okay, so we did this one already, but this is Lightning Kid versus Sabu. There's a little more context because like Sabu went after the announcers after this and stuff. Like there were some shenanigans afterwards that went on for way too long, in my opinion, afterwards. But whatever. And there was and again, like what Matt said though is like, who is this show for? Because like Sean Waltman does like a promo afterwards. So like, what's?
Yeah. So watching the show, I actually kind of watched the Sabu Lightning Kid match again, and it is I still feel it's good. It's the best match on the show, but I still feel like I would probably stand by giving it like 3.5 stars. Like it's actually pretty good, and like again, outside of WCW or the WWF, not counting like Japan, because at this point I would not have really like known Japan. Although I did, as I said, like back in the day, they offered on like American cable. WCW in partnership with New Japan, they did air like the WCW New Japan Super Show 3.
Yeah.
And I remember like convincing my parents to like let me buy that because it was like $10 or something. It was like discounted because it was like off brand. But I had no concept of like Japanese stuff. So if I had saw this show, I would, because I was consuming anything wrestling at this point, I don't know that I would have been like blown away, but I would have really liked the Sabu Lightning Kid match. I would have probably like, that would have been on tape, and I'd have been like, wow, like this is crazy. Because at this point, like a non WCW, non WWF show match to get like 3.5 stars would have been like, whoa. Like it was just almost like unheard of. Like,
yeah, I like if you were to say like make a comp of like the best matches in North America for 1993, this would be on there.
Probably.
And like I wouldn't even think that'd be controversial. So we can move on. Now, so we're in the co-main event territory here. So Charlie Norris and Masa Saito defeat Nails and the Hater. So Charlie Norris, I was actually surprised, worked some WCW shows and he got wins. He even teamed up with Dustin Rhodes to beat Tex Slazenger and Shanghai Pierce at one point. And if you don't know who that is, those are the Godwins from...
The Godwins.
Yep. WWF.
Yeah, the Godwins were in WCW for a period. I remember them. They were like a lower card tag team. They were kind of like the Butcher and the Blade in AEW.
Yeah, and they were really entertaining too.
They were. I remember Charlie Norris in WCW. I feel like he was around like this time.
Mm-hmm.
Like 93 maybe,
93, I looked at some of his matches and he did have some 93 matches because I saw him beat who did he beat? He beat a jobber, and then I saw him and Dustin in 91 beat Slazenger and Pierce. So I'm guessing he did weekend shows kind of on and off for a couple of years.
I have to be honest with you. This match, in my humble estimation, sucked. The only person who acted like they wanted to be there and do anything was Saito. Everybody else was like, yeah, sure. I'm getting paid for this. All right. And Saito gets in there and did the best stuff I've ever seen Nails be a part of by getting his shit kicked in by Nails. Or Nails getting his shit kicked in by Saito.
The real Jailbird needed to show the fake Jailbird how to... If you don't know why I said that joke, Ken Patera and Masa Saito got arrested and like beat up a bunch of cops because they wanted McDonald's late at night and it was closed, so they threw a rock through the
boulder.
Check this out. There is because I went looking into the story behind it, and it persists that it was Patera, and whenever the police went back to find Patera at his hotel room, he was rooming with Saito, and then they beat the shit out of the cops there. And so that's what they were booked for, was assaulting police officers. And I was like, dude, all you had to do was just sit back and go, I don't know, I've been here the whole time. But apparently he was like, no, I'm gonna throw some hands and some cops. I can throw both of them equally well, I guess. I don't know.
Masa Saito has one of my favorite Mean Gene outtakes too, because they were doing promos in the AWA and he and Ventura come up and Masa Saito's like, I'm going to break this board with my head. And Ventura holds it and he goes and he hits it and nothing happens. And Gene just starts laughing and Saito laughs and just walks off in shame with Ventura.
I had a question though, because how did they get Masa Saito in this? Because I looked him up, and again, you could say like, well, cage match isn't perfect, but it's like there's like he has for this period of time, it's like late '92 to early '93, and then after this is an April '93 match. It's like New Japan, New Japan, New Japan. This match, New Japan, New Japan. And it's like, how did you come in just for this show?
Because I'm guessing he had ties to the AWA, so they probably sold it as like an AWA-ish show. That's what I'm guessing. And I'm guessing they paid a lot of money for this show based on who was on it, so I'm guessing he got a good payday.
Probably, but I guess. But the thing is, like, he was my favorite part of this match. I agree, it's not a good match. But he also barely did do anything. Like there's a period. There's one I've noted because like there's a long, boring ass heat segment where the heels are just beating down on Charlie Norris. And then he makes a tag to Masa Saito, who comes in there, and he's in there like 30 seconds, and he's like cleaning house, but he's not doing like, house on fire. Like it's not as if Charlie Norris is Ricky Morton getting his shit kicked in, and then the Masa Saito is the Robert Gibson hot tag. He just comes in, does like some chops or like some punches or stuff like that, and then he tags back into Norris. Like that was like, dude, the guy got his ass beat for like 5 minutes. He just tagged him right back in 30 seconds later.
I actually I did not like this. It wasn't as bad as I was expecting, but I actually think if they had cut this down to like a 7 or an 8 minute match, it would have been okay. Like they had
15 minutes for no reason.
I know, and the problem I had with it was just too long. Like they had, like the structure they had of the match, I thought was fine. The idea they went for, I thought with the match was fine, but it was just too long. Because like I think if you had done your heat segment for like 3 or 4 minutes of Charlie there, and then he tags Saito in, he does the big beat down on Nails and gets the win, I think that would have been totally fine. Like I said, they had a lot of elements in there that I thought were, I'm not going to say good, but like perfectly acceptable.
Serviceable.
Serviceable, and they were executed serviceably. But those all happened in between large segments of like nothing. Because here's what I think would have worked. You do your opening stuff. You have Charlie start to get in trouble. You do the thing where Nails takes him and like smashes him into the stuff on the outside. You bring it back. You do the heat segment for a couple more minutes. Saito comes in, kills everyone dead, and wins. And I think it would have been a fine tag match.
Yeah. Hater. He was fine. He's just the guy. He was like your standard like indie guy, I guess.
He wasn't forgettably competent.
Yeah, he was competent. He wasn't great, but he wasn't offensively bad or
no. It was like
trip over himself.
I don't mean this in a bad way. I watched him and I'm like, there is a professional wrestler, and I don't mean that in a backhanded compliment way. I mean it in the that's a wrestler. And I mean that can be a compliment on some indie shows I've seen.
Yeah. Although he missed his calling like 30 something years later, a guy whose name and gimmick was "I'm the hater." Like he'd really get over nowadays. Like I'm a hater, and you just like just trash talk everyone. Like people would get over it. That would get over nowadays. Like I'm a hater. I wake up extra early to give you be a hater. He was fine. Nails is terrible. Nails we were talking
terrible.
earlier. Nails might be the worst I've ever seen anywhere outside of like, again, we go back to like the worst match you ever saw with the Irish assassin.
And Samson. God.
Samson. They, outside of those two people who are like an aberration, it's like D&D. It's like the aberration. They're like, they don't belong in this reality.
Yeah.
You know what the problem with this was? I thought he was fine at the start. Like when he did his stuff, I was like, okay, like he's still not great. But like if this match ends soon, like he did his job admirably, and then the match kept going, and they kept him in there doing like nothing.
He was out of stuff to do.
Yeah.
That first run in there, he shot his shot, and that's all he had. And that's the problem.
Because
it's also like, why didn't you just have the hater like do most of this match? He at least was competent.
Yeah. And by the way, they're talking. He seemed to have he and Norris seemed to have like at least some sort of like feud going on. But no, there's a point like up to where he like smashed him into the table and brought him back in. I was like, oh, like maybe you know they're going to utilize Nails really well. Like, you know, he did all of his stuff. If they wrap this up or go back to the hater pretty soon, like they got out of this with minimal damage, and then it went on for like another 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So not good.
This wasn't good.
No.
At least Masa Saito won with the Saito suplex,
which looks like he had some spice on that one.
He was not pleased.
Yeah. He wanted his money and to get the fuck out of there. Okay, so we're gonna go on to our main event here. So this is Road Warrior Hawk and Terry Funk. So this really isn't even a match. They pretty much just brawl all over the building, which I have to say, like, at first when I saw that on the card, I was like, oh, I'm going to be mad about this. And then I watched the brawl, and I'm like, oh, like, that was much better than watching them try to work a match. Because I have to say, my appreciation of Terry Funk went up tenfold for this, because this is obviously some pissant show that he could have half-assed. And he came out like a house of fire and terrorized Wade Keller to my laughing.
Terrorized Wade Keller hits, apparently like punches or shoves Dennis Coralluzzo. I noted, like, based upon his age, Terry Funk was like 49. He was like pushing 50. He looked in phenomenal shape in this.
He did.
Like,
he really did.
And I laughed when they were fighting on the bleachers and Hawk knocked him down. And he just hits the stair. He keeps rolling down the stairs. I laughed at that.
This wasn't a match. And when we knew that going in, like looking up on Cage Match, it was like the match was like 2 minutes. And it's like, what is this bullshit? This is going to be like some bullshit. And I watched it and it's not a match. But because of Terry Funk, I didn't walk away from this. This is obviously the whole show, like you got to wrap the whole show in. But watching this, I wasn't like, fuck this fucking bullshit. I was like, oh, you know what? This wasn't a match. If this was like a TV show, though, you didn't give me like a true main event. But I thought it was compelling. I thought that it was interesting because of Terry Funk and Terry Funk really selling this and the antics and everything like that. Like he was crazy, like doing a crazy brawl before and everything like that. Then they just start brawling around
and we got the Iron Man intro for Hawk. And I have to give it to Hawk. Yeah. Hawk came to play. Hawk, because I said. I thought both of them by the end of it, like, these guys gave this way more than it deserved.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't, maybe that's why I wasn't too disappointed with this. It's like, it wasn't a match, but they did go out there and do stuff. It wasn't like they showed up, interacted for 2 minutes, and then, like, took the piss and just like, all right.
Yeah, just left.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.
Terry Funk was, like, doing crazy stuff beforehand. Then Hawk comes out, they like fight, and then it's like the end of the match, and they're still like brawling around a bit. So it's like
And Terry took a visual pinfall too on top of that.
Yeah.
But I like, because I thought I was gonna be mad, but then I watched. I'm like, like, what would they even done in a match? Like them trying to work like a straight match would have been boring. Like this wasn't boring. Like this was fun.
Yeah.
What? But what? I got a question though. Why did they do this? Like this wasn't even really a match, and it's like, is it because
honestly,
neither of them want to take a pin, or like?
No, because why?
What?
But why? Because Terry took a visual pinfall, which is still. I'm wondering if they just looked at each other and they were just like, what the fuck are we even gonna do with each other? Like,
yeah.
Like I can
just
honestly
the idea of going, look, man, what kind of match we're not. Let's just go out there and like brawl for a while. That's what people want to see anyway.
Yeah, because I could just see him like trying to work it out and just be like, look, this is probably just gonna suck. Let's just throw stuff at each other instead. I think whatever they made the choice they made was the better decision.
I think it's pretty clear that that Hawk was not a coward in Terry Funk's eyes.
Yeah.
You're a goddamn coward. Let me look up. I'm trying to.
I will be. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm.
See if they worked more matches together.
I know it's been nerfed, but I'm trying to look up on Cage Match. Okay, so at this point in time, I guess he had pretty much like ended it, but this was like coming right off of Hawk doing like in early '93 his run as the Hellraisers with Kensuke Sasaki as Power Warrior.
Yeah.
So it was Hawk and Sasaki in New Japan as the Hellraisers, kind of like the modern, the new Road Warriors, because this is when Animal was hurt.
He does his ECW run where he wrestles Jimmy Snuka. I remember that match sucks. Oh, he wrestles in May. I need to see if this exists. He wrestles Jacques Rougeau in Vermont. Oh, and him and Smash have a couple of matches. Wrestles Eddie Gilbert. Oh, there's an NWA Grand Slam too. In Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Let's see what this show is. Okay. So Ricky Rice defeats the Hater. The Chosen One.
Oh, the Hater.
Who's the Chosen One?
A Battle Royal.
Wins a Battle Royal. Derek Dukes defeats the Jungle Fighter. Brian Christopher versus Chris Candido, double DQ.
Oh.
Sabu defeats Jerry Lynn. That might be interesting.
Billy Blaze. That could be good.
Billy Blaze defeats JB Trask. And in our main event, Road Warrior Hawk defeats Eddie Gilbert.
In 8 minutes, 25 seconds. That potentially could be good.
They drew 450 for that.
So not as much.
Let's see, WCW in August, Dustin Rhodes and Road Warrior Hawk defeat Rick Rude and the Equalizer. Who was the Equalizer?
Evad Sullivan.
Oh God, yeah.
It looks like by late '93, Hawk was back to doing. He was still working with Kensuke Sasaki.
Ooh.
Even winning the. They held the titles. Oh, they had a
November to Remember '93. Road Warrior Hawk and Sabu defeat King Kong Bundy and Terry Funk. I am intrigued by that.
I am intrigued by that too.
Ooh, Chad, this one's gonna get you. This one's gonna get you absolutely hyped. Road Warrior Hawk defeats Mr. Hughes.
Oh. I just saw clips from this. Like, I'd be curious to watch this match. September 23, 1993, New Japan G1 Climax special. Hellraisers, so Hawk and Kensuke Sasaki Power Warrior against Great Muta and Hulk Hogan. I saw clips of this, and someone was like, what? Like Hogan? I love people who always get surprised. Like Hogan was actually a good worker. Like people who act like Hogan wasn't a good worker. Like Hogan actually was a good worker. He just didn't have to do a bunch of shit. But when Hogan went over to like Japan, he would do some shit.
He knew he couldn't get away with not.
I saw some clips of this match, and it was basically like Hogan doing some good shit, and Muta just like doing Muta stuff and bumping like crazy. And it looked pretty entertaining. Like I would actually watch this. Here's one, another PWA from October, Road Warrior Hawk versus Nails.
I just saw that one. There's a series with him and the Warlord against each other. He worked a lot of single stuff in those couple of years when he'd come to the U.S. because he worked a lot of ECW in between WCW things.
Gents, I'm sorry, but I'm fading out pretty hard, so I'm gonna make an early exit.
Okay.
Good joining you. You all have a great night.
All right, Chad.
Later, Shad. So I did not like this show, but it's interesting. I think it's interesting to see like where wrestling was in the 90s because, you know, I kind of go back to like when Jonathan Gresham was having that whole like, well, why can't my personality being a good why is being a good wrestler not enough of a personality? And like, well, because it's not, because everyone's a good wrestler.
If everyone's a good wrestler, just being a good wrestler isn't enough.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Gresham's his fault is that he's like this big. Yeah. Like I've actually seen him in person, like wrestle. Like, and he, and not like I'm watching him when he was with Ring of Honor or even with, AEW Ring of Honor, or I'm watching you from like hundreds of feet away. I saw him at an indie show where I was like third or fourth row. So I'm seeing him from like 20 feet away. And he's like my wife's height. My wife is like 5.5 feet tall. So he's small. He's like jacked. He's like, big muscles. But yeah, like, dude, you're a really good worker. You're small. Like,
and he doesn't have like,
why aren't you booking me over Claudio? It's like, really?
Well,
you're asking why Tony Khan isn't booking you to go over like the 6'4", 6'5", like very tall, really buff Swedish guy, not Swedish, Switzerland guy.
And I
guess he's like Italian. He's one of the Swiss Italians.
And like when he was with AEW, they had him teaming up with Lee Moriarty a bit, and it's like, and I wish it would have like, I wish Gresham could look. I mean, I think he's like he's kind of apologized for that stuff, but like, I think it's a good comparison for the two because I think Lee Moriarty is not as good of a wrestler as Gresham, but Lee Moriarty has a personality and who's still in AEW and getting it pushed a bit, and who's not. But that's kind of like my takeaway for modern stuff is like being a good wrestler is not good enough anymore. Like if you'd worked this show and like your gimmick was I'm Mr. Good Wrestler and like you went out there and had some like awesome match with someone, like you would have stood out on this show.
Oh yeah. This show, again, I asked multiple times, like, well, I don't know what this show was. Like, it seemed like they were trying to do something with the show.
Well, there was obviously a Grand Slam. I'm wondering if Dennis Corluzzo was trying to launch like this was kind of him trying to rebuild the NWA because I think the next year in '94 is when he gets double crossed by Heyman and like everything. So I wonder if this is like
maybe
trying to rebuild the NWA into something.
It almost, in a way, seemed like, not that it was like a pilot for like TV, even like local TV or whatever, but it almost was that because it's like, because that's what I was saying. Like some of the booking choices on this, it's like the Bobby Blaze and the Larry Cameron match. It's like these are almost just like
Throwaway.
Like standard TV matches, get throwaway matches. So like, why are they included? But maybe if you're like almost making this like a pilot, then it's like, okay, I guess I can kind of see it. And you had some name guys on here, and you had a couple pretty decent to good matches on it. So it's like you had that.
Like I didn't like this show, but like if I'm putting myself in the time period, if I had paid my $5 or $10 on like a Sunday afternoon and went to this show, I wouldn't have been. Even now, I don't think I'd be mad about it.
I didn't like the show either, but if I was in that same boat, like years later, I would have been like, they had a really good Sabu Lightning Kid match, and both of those guys obviously went on to do bigger things, because this is before Sabu obviously blew up with ECW, and this is way before Waltman. Well, actually, not that long before, but when Waltman obviously blew up as much as 3 Kid, and then
was just starting to do jobs on WWE TV around now.
Yeah, so I would have,
and he beats later, Razor. He literally beats Razor Ramon on Raw. I would maybe 3 weeks after this, like within a month, wow. He beats Razor on. No, it might have been within 6 weeks. He beats Razor on Raw. So it's like right before he blows up. But he'd already had he'd already had the crazy dive in the GWF before this, though. So like I think Sean Waltman's already kind of a name.
I would have if I had bought a ticket to the show, I'd have walked away, been like, that was an awesome match that I got to see live.
I got punched by Terry Funk.
And that's the other thing. I would have been like, I got to see Terry Funk versus Road Warrior Hawk, and maybe in the years since, I would have forgot that it was like a 2-minute non-match, and just been like, like they like fought all over the arena. It was really cool. Like, and I would have been able to say like, I saw Terry Funk like wrestle live. That's not something I ever did. I don't think I did.
I don't think I ever did. I don't think I ever saw Sabu either.
I don't think I ever did. Did I? I don't think I did. Like I suppose like late WCW I could have, but I don't think I was actually at a show that Terry Funk was on.
No, he's always coincided weirdly to not be on anything I've seen. Like I've seen promotions he's been on like around the times he would have shown up, but like always like a couple months before or after.
Yeah. And I don't think I've ever seen Sabu live. Saw some indie shows.
I've seen Candido, Lynn, and Waltman all wrestle. I've seen Taz wrestle. Who else on this show? Have I seen the Road Warriors? I don't think I've seen the Road Warriors in person. Yeah, I've seen Lynn, Candido, Taz, and Waltman live.
I've seen X-Pac live.
But I don't think I've ever seen the Road Warriors wrestle live.
No, I never saw them. Last time I saw it, this is years ago. Last time I think I saw X-Pac wrestle live was at I looked it up, the 2019 WrestleCon Super Show in New York, right before Mania. Which, looking at the card now, I'm like, wow, like I remember some of that stuff, but I also forgot I didn't see some of that. Like the main event for that was Will Ospreay versus Bandito. And I remember that being a good match, but it's like, that's a really good match that I just completely forgot existed.
Yeah.
And that I was there live. The match I remember from that show was SoCal Uncensored. So Daniels, Kazarian, and Scorpio Sky against Best Friends and Orange Cassidy, because they had that really great segment where Orange Cassidy and Christopher Daniels, they both had like the sunglasses on. And Orange Cassidy, because this is before him, he's still doing his, King of Sloth style gimmick where he's like, actual super worker Orange Cassidy that he really is. But there was a great segment where they're doing like a chop battle, and it's like this. Orange Cassidy's like,
yeah, I remember that.
And Christopher Daniels has the sunglasses on too, and he's doing like the same thing, and it's like, and they just kept doing that with the lightest like chops that are like that, and people, including me, in the stands were going crazy. We're like going crazy for that.
Well, and the worst part is the live audience. You missed like the other best part is when they did the video for it. The camera guy was doing the WWE like zoom in and out each time they were doing it.
I've seen that before because I've seen it,
which really adds
like,
to it.
Posted like video. Yes.
And they're both trying not to laugh.
Right?
Who?
Orange Cassidy. I think he got.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's been gone a while, but he like. I feel like he hasn't really had major injuries lately, like recently, like the last few years.
He had the
but
arm,
I
and
think
he had something else.
This one I think was supposed to be like a torn pec or something like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, Cody came back maybe not that long after, but that's still like at least like a 6-month recovery, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. I would wonder, and we probably don't know because Corluzzo passed away not long.
Oh, shit, I forgot that he did actually.
Cause he died in the early aughts, I think. But yeah, I don't know what the purpose of this was, because like the thing with it is it's well shot. Like I would say the production side of it's not terrible. They put some money into it. Yeah, I don't know. They bothered to have commentary.
Wow, he died in 2001.
I knew it was early. I think he had a heart attack. Yeah.
Jesus. He looked at least 15 years old, or no?
Well, I think we know why he.
Oh my God! It said a resident of New Jersey, Corluzzo, went into a coma and died on July 30th due to bleeding on the brain.
Oh God.
That to me bleeding on the brain.
Widowmaker.
Bleeding on the brain. No, bleeding on the brain, like he had like a stroke essentially. Transient ischemic attack. Like he could have had, clogged arteries or whatever like that. But to me that sounds like he had a stroke, and
he's kind of a forgotten figure because like in the late 90s he was kind of like a mover and a shaker. Well, mid 90s too. He was kind of a mover and a shaker of like the indie scene. And it'd be an interesting what if he had managed, if he was still alive or had lived for like another 10 or 15 years, like what kind of impact he would have had on the wrestling world.
I think his claim to fame really was the not
double
claim to fame. I mean, it's
the double cross.
Yeah. When they crowned Shane Douglas and he immediately threw down the title, and it was that whole thing, the birth of ECW.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably like his big thing. But yeah, like
I think the Colorado
does seem
Kid
like
was
he was
one
a
of
bigger
his
deal.
Guys too.
Who?
Mike Rapata.
Oh yeah. Wow, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
But yeah, this wasn't a good show. I mean, it's an interesting little historical oddity. I would not recommend watching it. I would watch Sabu and Lightning Kid. But like if you want to watch it, it's on YouTube. It's easy to find. It's I've seen worse. Honestly, we've reviewed worse. Like it's not Heroes of Wrestling. Like it's not good, but it's not Heroes of Wrestling bad. Like if someone said, "Hey," like if someone 6 months from now said, "Hey, do you want to come on the show and talk about the show? You have to watch it again." I'd be like, "Okay." Like I know it's not a good show, but like I would not, like if I had to watch it again for some reason, like Heroes of Wrestling, I'd be like, fuck no, I'm never watching that show again. This would be like,
Heroes of Wrestling was way worse than this show.
Yeah, like Heroes of Wrestling, if like someone was like, hey, we want you to watch that again for a review, I'd be like, no, I can't do it. Like it's too bad. This would be like, okay, that's not a problem.
There were 7 matches on the show. One was legit good. One was okay to fine.
Yeah. Two were like, whatever.
The main event was not, in my opinion, like a match, but it was interesting.
It was
Isn't like go out of your
entertaining.
way to see it, but it was also like if you're like, hey, let's watch Terry Funk versus Road Warrior Hawk, and it's like it's not really a match, it's just like kind of like a long segment. I'd be like, okay, and I watched like the 10 minutes or so it was. I would have been like, well, that was interesting. That kind of
Yeah.
adds to the legend of Terry Funk being great.
And I had fun.
And it's like, did I need to see that for that? Like, no, but I'm also not like, oh my God, that's 10 minutes of my life I'll never get back.
Yeah.
No, it was fine. I thought it was interesting.
It's no
and
different than
kind of fun because of Terry Funk.
It's no different than any like arena brawl you've ever seen. It wasn't even that much. I
Yeah.
wouldn't even say it's like that different from like Sabu and Mick Foley from last week. But like
Yeah.
if you just happened to cross like it was on a comp or something, I think you'd come out and be like, oh, that was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun. Yeah, I was telling you guys like it's been a while, but the last indie show I saw probably a year ago. It was a Virginia Championship Wrestling, which is based more out of Norfolk, Virginia.
Is it kind of like the
So
remnants of that Nova promotion?
not really, but there is some. No, actually, I would say not really. You would think there's more bleed over because it's like based in Virginia, but geographically, if you don't know like the geography, I'm in Northern Virginia, just outside of Washington D.C. and like the suburbs of Northern Virginia, just outside of D.C. Norfolk, they predominantly run shows in Norfolk and Roanoke, Virginia, which is, if like looking at my hands, like here, if right here is like DC, that's like down here, like on the coast. So it's like a 3 or 4 hour drive down to Virginia. So it's not close. Whereas the remnants of like Northern Virginia pro wrestling, they were running shows in DC until the pandemic. COVID like just shut all that down. So they don't really do those shows. So you would think there's more bleed over, but there isn't like a lot of bleed over in terms of like the talent.
Where was the one where like the that obviously like where one of like I don't even know if she was like a promoter, but she used like the speaking out thing to snake the main promoter in the back.
Yeah,
and then like it totally died.
That was what happened with Nova Pro Wrestling. Like it became
Nova was the one where he like didn't pay a bunch of people because like he was running those like obscenely large cards. I think the one we're talking about was different from that.
Well, no, that from the ashes of that, it was like a DC based promotion.
Okay.
Jesus, what was that called? I forgot what it's called. But it was based in DC, and they ran like 5 or 6 shows. And then there was like it really shut down because of like the pandemic because they weren't running shows. And then during Speaking Out, it was kind of co-run and co-owned by people. The reason I say it came from the ashes of Nova Pro Wrestling because there was a guy he was like a manager there with Nova Pro Wrestling, but then he like took like he basically, because he was part of like, I don't know if who knows, behind the scenes he could have been like helping run the show, whatever, but he was involved as like a talent. So he kind of got some of the workers, and it was guys like who were based in the East Coast. I think a lot of them were based more in like Pennsylvania because it was like Wheeler Yuta before he became even signed with AEW. Other people that who have a name like Alley Cat or Alley Catch. Like she was part of it. One of the Nova Pro Wrestling shows I went to was actually, that's where I saw Jonathan Gresham. And then a few other people that actually have names in the indie scene or have been signed. But they wind up doing like some of those shows at the DC based promotion. But it was that guy who I said had been a manager. He and another woman who, well, actually, I think this person is non-binary, so I'm not trying to call them out. But they were, I think, a woman at that time. But they kind of joined together and did the DC promotion. And they ran a handful of shows, and then the pandemic shut them down because no one was running anything. And then during that time, Speaking Out came out, and it wasn't even like the non-binary person said like this person, the guy who was a manager, was like a sex pest, which was the usual thing. They made it seem like, oh, they were just like abusive, like they were. He was an asshole.
It was your typical therapy speak. Like, it was obvious, and I think most people actually called it out the time that it was obvious this was just a play to get like full control of the.
It seemed like that. That's what it came to me, and I'm trying to diminish because maybe this guy was an asshole to work with, but it's also like we've
seen enough.
You should differentiate.
We've
you
seen
should differentiate
enough.
Because there are people. Yeah, the Joey Ryan thing was like, there are people who are speaking out about horrific abuse that certain people in the community were doing, versus like this guy was mean to me. He called me all sorts of names, and it's like, well, that's not nothing, but it's also like let's
or my favorite
rate
one.
Let's differentiate this.
My favorite one was one of the Mustache Mountain guys where like they were like, oh, he hit on me in a bar, and I said no, and he was like, thank you for your time, ma'am, and went away, and somehow like we were supposed to be outraged by that. I think they were like,
wasn't that like Trent Seven, I think?
Yeah, it was Trent Seven, I think. And then people were like, well, she was underage. Like, well, he didn't know. I don't know. I just think between that and like Me Too, like there were like the horrific cases, but especially with Me Too, we've seen enough of those litigated in court to see like a lot of people took their shot to weaponize it against someone they were axe grinding against.
There was some of that because it's like, the ones that like that, like you just explained to me, it's like, I'm not gonna cancel this dude for that. If the guy's like, he was inappropriate to me, it's like, what did he do? He asked me out. He like was really like aggressive, wanted to ask me out, and it's like, okay, what did you do? I told him no. Okay, then what happened? He was like, okay, well, he backed off. It's like, okay, did he retaliate? Did he like stop booking you for shows or like that? No. Okay, like then he misread something, you told him no, and he backed off. It's like maybe he was wrong misreading it, but it's like if that's all that happened, then that's way different than what we saw.
Yeah.
People like Marty Skrull, initially when I heard it, it's like, well, he had sex with an underage girl. And it's like, oh my God, that's fucking terrible. It's like, oh no, but he's British, like it happened in Britain. It was a British girl, like the age of consent. I'm like, that's still wrong, but okay. But then it came out, it's like, well, actually, like he got her drunk, and it's like, oh. Then it got worse as you heard it. When you first heard it, it's like, this is bad, and it's like, well, maybe it's not so bad. I don't agree with it, but it's a different culture, and maybe the morals are different because it's like you can do sort. Then it's like, oh no, this is bad.
And remember,
you got it. Context actually matters.
Remember dipshit David Starr's I'm not a predator, but it's like you've already lost the.
Oh yeah. It's like, well, you know, he did the whole thing where it's like, well, I admit I've hurt people. It's like hurting people is like maybe you weren't like a good boyfriend. You are basically saying like, oh yes, maybe there is some truth to the fact that I have abused women. It's like, oh my God, dude. I'm glad that guy got canceled. Like
he was such a
Joey Ryan.
He was such a I hate to wade into politics, but I hated him because like he was such a performative like asshole, and all these like would be progressives on line, like you just had to speak the line and they clap like seals. But then like, you know, he didn't say anything about like that referee getting assaulted on a show, but he, you know, every time there was a tad bit of NXT like drama, like he would open his mouth, and it was so performative and fake. But just because he was saying like the line, like he always got like this fucking pass, and like the clapping seals would be like.
People would clap like seals, and that does bother me because again, if you believe in these sort of things, we're not trying to make a political statement against that, but it's like when you're performative like that, I think you're fake.
No,
you come off as fake.
You could see right through that. Like if you're giving a critical eye at all, that guy you could see through that guy in 5 seconds. Which, like, it was all bullshit. Like his workers' right thing, it was all bullshit. Like he was he was just a performative like NPC leftist, and like he didn't get scrutiny because he was saying the right things. And I was glad he got taken down because, like I said, like the first time he ever did anything, I'm like, well, I never thought he was that good for starters, but like he would do that stuff. Like, this is so fucking fake. Like, he is just such a phony.
Well, it did come off to me as phony, and
because I don't have to agree with you. Like, there are plenty of wrestlers that have stances I don't agree with, but like a lot of them are genuine. It's like, okay, well, I don't agree with you, but like you at least seem like you back up, like you at least like live by what you seem to believe. So I'm okay. I'm good with that. It's
contrast David Starr, and to take the sexual aspect, take the sex pestery around, but someone like Zack Sabre Jr. who says I'm a socialist, but he doesn't make a big deal about it. Maybe he does, but he's not like beating your face in with it.
He hasn't tried to sell you T-shirts based on it, at least.
Yeah, but he's a guy, but he, like, I guess you could say he stands on business. It's like he's obviously very integrated with New Japan Pro Wrestling, even won the title, but he says like I'm a socialist, etc. Like works for New Japan, but he's not beating your head up about workers' rights and all that jazz. And then David Starr every time like he
every time
like, oh, workers' rights, whatever. And it came off to me at the time. It's like someone like Zack Sabre Jr. It's like, yeah, he works for a big company. If someone's like, hey, you want to sign with AEW or WWE, he's like, I'm happy doing this. Like, I'm working for New Japan. Like, why would I want to go work for those fucking people? Versus David Starr, to me, whenever he talks about workers' rights, it just sounds like, oh, you seem bitter. You seem bitter. You're not being offered like the big like NXT.
Kind of like Effie did in his last.
Maybe I'm being unfair to him.
He came across like Effie did in his last thing with Tony Khan, like being butthurt that the big leagues weren't. And the other thing he always did that pissed me off was like anytime there was a tad bit of drama in NXT, it could be something biggish, it could be something smallish. He always had to stick his nose in it and make it about him. And it'd be like, hey, what about that referee that got like beaten up so bad on one of your shows that like he's like permanently disabled? Never said a word about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, which again comes off as hypocritical. You would talk about workers' rights for a company that you don't work with, but the company that you actually do work for, someone got horribly abused by a worker, and you don't have any comment on that. To the point where the that did the abuse got fired, and
yeah,
I think basically blacklisted, at least in the British scene.
I think he did. He made like one limp dick statement about it that kind of just brushed it aside because that's. But like I said,
I think at the time it was like, okay, action had already been taken. He didn't comment, but action had been taken, and it's like, oh, this is the right call. And it's like, oh, okay, fine. You can comment and be like, oh, this is good. You didn't say jack shit, but after it's already been done, someone else did like the dirty work. You can be like, oh, good job. Come on,
yeah.
Like performative. That's yeah.
I did not like him, and Joey Ryan. I really never. It was funny like twice.
Once your gimmick is like, I'm gonna do dick flips, it's like, do you need to? Like, this is kind of weird.
Well, it's because he'd been around for like ever, and he never had like a gimmick. And I'm not. Well, I mean, I can throw shade at him now, but like, he just had never had a gimmick stick, and that's like the first thing that kind of stuck for him.
But you don't have to. You don't have to work that into your spot every match or whatever. Like,
no, it got old real quick. I mean, like the only one I really thought was that funny was when Mick Foley and him had their. Well, no, that's wrong. Jerry Lawler shooting him in the dick with like a fireball out of his.
Oh, I was there for that. I think that was at the the WrestleCon or Wrestle Super Show stuff for 2018 in New Orleans. I was there with that with Chris, friend of the show, Christy Petrella.
I think Ryan was Ryan was probably the
He wasn't
second.
canceled at that point.
Well, his was probably the second worst accusations, but I don't want to say the name wrong. The guy from England, I think, that was like menacing his girlfriend in like a hotel, I think was the worst of those accusations.
I don't know which one that was.
Trent Banks in there.
I mean, Ryan was like the worst. Like
there was some dark. That one, the one Trent Banks maybe. Don't quote me on that. Like I said, that's why I didn't want to say it.
I don't remember.
But he was like, that one was like very quasi abusive. Like he was like knocking on her door and like stalking. That one was very bad.
Well, Ryan was was the worst in my opinion, just because there's like a lot of victims or alleged victims.
He like pretty much sex pested any woman that came within like 5 inches of him. Or 5 feet of him.
His was bad, but
I remember Vanessa Craven talking.
Specifically one.
I remember Vanessa Craven talking about Joey Ryan, and I felt really bad for her after reading that.
I think she was one of the ones, yeah.
But I think that's it for this week. I don't know what we're doing next week. Next week's gonna probably be the last week you see me with this backdrop because I'll be in a new location. I don't know what we're doing. We might do something. It'll probably be something less. Probably not something where we watch something because we'll have Memorial Day. So I think we'll all be kind of off and about. But thank you for joining us as always. This is Matt and Brad. Shad bailed a little early.
Shad was here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wasn't feeling well. But we've been in 2 corners and you've been in the 3rd and 4th. Thank you for watching as always, and we will catch you next time.